Food coloring is everywhere. In fact, for centuries of recorded history, people have sought out additives to enhance or change the color of food to make it more appetizing. Which proves that the phrase, "we eat with our eyes first," alludes to an actual evolutionary trait that has allowed our species to survive for generations. Of course, any aspect of human psychology that was originally intended to help keep our ancestors alive has since been exploited, manipulated, and reconditioned by an ever-expanding global economy so that it could slowly kill us and brainwash our babies, all in the name of profit. Fast forward to the present day, and suddenly it makes sense why we live in a world full of people willing to eat laundry detergent pods, and also why I would jump in front of a speeding train for just one last taste of the opaque blue Scooby-Doo fruit snack of my childhood. Don't worry, I can't actually access any train tracks due to my refusal for walking up any sort of gradual incline or outdoor hill. What am I, a pioneer of the American West? Nuh-uh, I don't need to experience any unpaved territory, thank you very much. Although, lazy millennials like myself have witnessed pioneering food innovations in our lifetimes, but in reality, corporations started using colors to make consumers feel more hungry well before that, laying the groundwork for edible glitter, rainbow crepes, purple ketchup, and pink sauce like the ones that are currently dominating the food landscape. So come with me as we figuratively explore how recent history's most egregious uses of natural and artificial food dyes came to be. Get ready to see some caramel-colored hills under a blue dye #1 sky in today's visually delicious installment of Clip Breakdown. Hello television viewers, my name is Nick. Thank you so much for joining me once again on my channel for another installment of Clip Breakdown. This is the playlist where we dive into our favorite movies, TV movies, and other such content here on the web, and we break it down like the scammers and liars who were using marigold leaves to make their butter look fresh when it wasn't in the early centuries history, so that we can look at each individual morsel and decide if they were good to sell and eat or dangerous and toxic. Because today we are talking about food coloring, food dye, colored food additives, whatever you want to call it depending on your country, I guess. But before we get into it, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up if you want to see even more clip breakdowns from me. But most importantly, if you're new to my channel, I would love to have you click that subscribe button right over here. That way you never miss new videos when I'm whipping up some spoiled milk but making it look nice for you. Before we dive into some of what I think are the most hideous and disgusting ways that basically kids were tricked into buying unhealthy foods, I have to start with a brief history of what food coloring even is. Historians think that the addition of colorants in food started way back in like 1500 BC with the ancient Egyptians. I guess they used like forensics or whatever to decide that it looks like wine was used by candy makers so that their product's appearance would be more desirable. And it makes sense. Candy, back then even, would be a processed food that doesn't naturally have a rich, vibrant color like the ones that we see in fruit and vegetables. That's why in ancient times, they would use ingredients like plants and herb extracts to give that rich color to foods. Like fruit peeling, for example, anything that has a lot of pigment could be broken down and used. Historically, that would be carrots, pomegranates, berries, beets, parsley. I don't know, I wasn't there. Indigo, powdered wood. It was all natural is what I'm saying. And I guess you could kind of just consider it good marketing. Then there was a long period of time with like feudalism where everybody was growing their own food or maybe trading it with neighboring people. The aesthetics were not important, and in some parts of the world, importing spices or colorants was outlawed. But then, with the onset of the Industrial Revolution, suddenly, in order to eat, you really kind of depended on buying food from others. Basically, urban dwellers, think like those like child laborers who worked in the mills, they were depending on food that could be provided every day at a low cost. And suddenly, using all natural food colorants, like the ones that I just mentioned, were too expensive. Who's gonna go out into a field and gather all of that stuff? However, chemistry was a new kind of science, and it was highly unregulated. This is when the adulteration of food began to flourish, which means like messing with the way the food looks so that people can't tell whether its quality is good or bad. People would use these unnatural compounds or heavy metals that were really cheap and could help restore the color of milk that they had watered down. So I milk a cow and I make 1 bucket of milk into 2 buckets of milk with water, and then I add some, I don't know, chalk to make it milky white, and then I sell it to you to pour over your old-timey cornflakes. But honestly, you would be lucky to be drinking chalk. The most like awful examples would be red lead, vermilion. These were poisons that they commonly used to help improve the color of like sweets or cheese even. Also, copper arsenite was used to recolor tea leaves so that they could sell them. Anything that has the word arson in it sounds dubious to me at best. In 1860, that ingredient actually led to the death of 2 people when it was used to color some sort of dessert. I can't imagine what sort of sad depression desserts. Sometimes when I want something sweet after like dinner, I'll just put jam on bread and I'm like, this must be how it was in the olden times. Oh really? Are you eating literal arsenic? Then probably not that bad. By the 1900s, it would not be surprising if the food, drugs, and cosmetics that you put on your face were artificially colored, but honestly, not all of these artificial colors were safe at the time. Imagine putting on eyeliner that's full of lead or arsenic or mercury. That's what killed Cleopatra, I believe. No, was she bitten by a snake? Who cares? Either way, some of these colorants were actually being used to hide spoiled or defective food products. That's why in 1906, Congress passed the United States Food and Drugs Act. FDA is something you might be aware of in the United States, which prohibited, quote, the use of poisonous or harmful colors in confectionery and the coloring or staining of food to conceal damage or inferiority. And then the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938 created stricter rules to govern processed or synthetic food. Suddenly, if you were gonna make food and sell it, you had to certify any sort of additives that went into it. They had to be certified as safe by the government. And it introduced the naming of food colors, which has always been like to me, the most fascinating part of when you read an ingredients list and it's like blue dye number 40, quotations lake. These initial primary colors and their names are still used today. Blue dye number 2 is called indigo teen. Green number 3, fast green. Red number 3, erythrocyan. I really overestimated my confidence in these science words. Yellow number 6, sunset yellow. I love that. These are some of the basic colors you might be familiar with when you buy a like domestic box of food coloring, which is meant for baking. And by the time people were in the home cooking for themselves with modern kitchens, it was very common to use these types of food coloring to enhance the eye appeal of your dishes, which we can see in examples like these 1916 magazine ads for McCormick Schilling's Pure Food Colorings. The ads have the misogynistic tone you might expect for the time. Like the verbiage specifically addresses women as the only people in a household who cook or bake, and frankly, that image of a blood red egg being held on a spoon is what the all-male advertising executives assumed was going on in the bathroom when their wives were on their period. They're at the door like, hurry up and scoop that unused embryo out of the toilet water, Betty Sue. It's time to come fix me and the kids a 3-layer cake for no reason. However, some of this old-timey lingo aged surprisingly well and actually sounds more inclusive than ever, with phrases like holiday gay for Easter Day and make Easter gayer, comma, brighter. I was not aware that Easter was even gay to begin with, but now it kind of makes sense. From what I understand, the original Easter was basically the same as any sort of circuit party you could go to in Southern California, involving a group of men with a peculiar interest in flogging who gathered in the desert wearing basically nothing, and by the end of it, several people had died of dehydration and sun exposure. However, I'm guessing the execution of Jesus wasn't underscored by a house remix of Dancing on My Own by Robin, but that's why it sucked and nobody nobody talks about it anymore. Obviously, food coloring was a novelty when those first 5 colorings came out from brands like McCormick Shillings, but today there are hundreds of strictly regulated food coloring that are safe to use. The reason corporations love to use these colors is because people associate certain colors with certain flavors. So the color of food can influence the perceived flavor in anything from candy to wine. Like, for example, a red maraschino cherry is naturally beige, but obviously cherries off the tree are a reddish color. So sometimes the goal is to simulate a color that the consumer perceives as natural. Another important reason companies do this is to offset natural color variations, like in orange juice. If you're squeezing a bunch of oranges, like every batch is gonna look different, and you want a consistent product on the shelf. Brands might want to enhance the colors that do occur naturally, or help consumers visually identify on site the different flavor or medicine dosages of certain products. But as you'll see many times throughout today's video, these additives are used to provide a color to fun foods that would naturally be colorless. Like, for example, a fruit juice drink that is made of sugar water only. You might recognize this product from 1989.
There's going to be a great new high-C flavor with an outrageous fruit taste. And what are we going to call it? Ecto Cooler. High-C Ecto Cooler. You've been warned.
I like to think this kid told the store managers that he saw slimy green ghosts flying around all of the groceries, and they were like, you know what? It seems like you might be a better fit for restocking the shelves during night shift when all of the customers are gone and the doors are locked from the outside. Also, pretty sure our safety training said to lift boxes from the knees, not break out into that dippity-derpity dance walk down the aisles. He said, do-do-do-do-do. Of course, food dyes have not just been popular non-stop throughout all of modern history. During the 70s, there was this return to nature movement, which really went back to like no coloring of anything. Around mid-1992, there was what marketers now call the clear craze. Everything from Ivory soap to Nintendo were releasing clear versions of their product because it suggested to the consumer a sense of transparency, obviously, and purity. And that was the line of thinking behind this iconic flop of a soda known as Crystal Pepsi. Wow, that was so hopeful and inspiring, but I guess I'm a little confused. Is that soda running for mayor? As a candidate, Crystal Pepsi does seem a little unorthodox, but I do love some of her more progressive visions of the future, such as keeping babies inside of fish tanks until their hair grows out, and giving men in Speedos the power to fly in restricted airspaces so that people with telescopes can all look up and see the shape of their Also, quite frankly, I'm comforted as a voter knowing that she comes from a well-known family. Her mother is Crystal Meth, who has already given so much to this country, such as mouth sores and sex addictions. All right, she's got my vote. And if you also support Crystal Pepsi, make sure you spread the word by posting on social media and emailing your entire company, #IDoCrystal. Of course, it was only after years of synthetic dyes being used that these natural food colorings came back into fashion, but the synthetic dyes were made for a reason too. Like, once people started working in mills and living in cities or whatever, natural food colorings became way more expensive. Chemistry was developing, and these synthetic dyes that were non-toxic, I guess, in tiny amounts, could be mass-produced for a fraction of the cost. They were brighter, they could be more custom, and they even had like a longer shelf life, all things that were good for the food industry. It was as early as 1856 that William Henry Perkin discovered a color that I do know I have heard about in the past called mauve. I mean, obviously I've heard of that, but as a food dye, which was used in like edible products, drugs, cosmetics. So yeah, by the mid-90s, consumers were very used to very bright, vibrant colors, whether it's in their candy or, as it turns out, other products that are naturally pretty boring in terms of color. And know who doesn't want a boring or gross colored food? Children and babies. Welcome to the world of advertising for children, which I believe was really at its worst in the 90s. Like, marketers knew the most about human psychology, particularly child psychology, to give kids a reason to want to request these types of products from their parents. Like, basically children had purchasing power all of a sudden by being able to influence the products that their parents shopped for. And that's when I came into consciousness with products like this.
Oh, look! Rugrats applesauce! All right! They're gonna eat it all up! What would Tommy do? We're going in!
Now you can have your own Rugrats adventure with new Rugrats applesauce from Motts. In 2 delicious fruity flavors, watermelon and fruit punch.
What's happening to all the applesauce?
New Rugrats applesauce.
Hello, poison control. My baby just swung from the ceiling and ate about 24 ounces of pureed apples designed to taste like other types of fruit. How much longer does it have to live? There are no unusual symptoms yet. It's just sitting in a kiddie pool filled with its own bright red diarrhea and speaking in full English. Hello? Hello? Oh, I haven't paid my phone bill in months. I forgot. Whatever. I'm sure the solution is feeding the child an equal amount of Crystal Pepsi to purify the blood. Cue the Van Halen song. Right now. It creeps me out how baby actors are always clearly making eye contact with the off-screen adult that trained them to clap their arms like a seal. But of course, worst of all is that this applesauce, full of added sugar, artificial colors, and flavors, was clearly not meant for infants. But don't worry, because this next one was.
And now, a clue about something new.
Applesauce!
Blue's Clues Berry Applesauce from Motts.
I'm not here to judge anyone's parenting style, but to me, it sounded like those kids were completely brainwashed for applesauce. I'm just saying, you might want to look into that alternative new age daycare you're sending them to. If they come home with white glowing eyes and asking for snacks like they're children of the corn crazy. Their mom is like, hey kids, how was school? Did you learn applesauce? I'm sorry, that is the omen. You are destined for the fire. But this all comes back to what the candy industry had been doing for a long time, adding vibrant color to food to make it seem more fun to children. However, kids were obviously bored with things like, I don't know, green apple lollipops and blue raspberry slushies. By the early thousands, or not even, the Blue's Clues applesauce thing was 99, as was the introduction of this next product, which was included within the new offering from Burger King, which was like a larger kids meal for big kids. The Burger King Big Kids meal.
This ride's for big kids.
I got a big kids meal from Burger King.
What's that?
It's got more food.
Why's it got more food?
Big kids need more food.
The tasty new Burger King Big Kids meal with more fun food, like 6-piece chicken tenders with gooey apple green slime dipping sauce.
He must be a big kid.
Good evening. Tonight's main story, 2 more children have tragically fallen to their deaths in a theme park accident spike that eerily coincides with Burger King launching a product that makes their food seem even more gross. Authorities say both victims were known to be woefully below the ride's height requirement, and a coroner's report states that each child was found, quote, clutching cold chicken nuggets and this nasty dipping sauce. We'll have more for you as the story unfolds. Ugh, all this talking about food has me really craving those Blue's Clues Mott applesauces. I can't help it. The 90s were like the Wild West of advertising to children, so we were being bombarded with messages telling us to eat processed food. Luckily, as an adult, I'm finally taking a stand and starting to build better, healthy eating habits. Thanks to the sponsor of today's video, EVERYPLATE. EVERYPLATE is America's best value meal kit. And I know this from personal experience because I've tried some meal kits that are so expensive you want to cry. But EVERYPLATE gives you the same fresh, delicious ingredients and innovative meal solutions for a much better price. Plus, it's 25% less expensive than regular grocery shopping. So sign me up. As somebody who lives alone, I don't like paying for food that I don't need. And with the cute pre-portioned ingredients, there is no waste and I'm eating healthy. healthier. Like, I almost went and ordered takeout Thai food, which is loaded with salt, and then I realized, oh, I have this beautiful recipe card for saucy soy, mushroom, and pepper bowls. It was delicious. I love rice, I love mushrooms, I love peppers. All of EveryPlate's recipes come together in about 30 minutes, or with their new 15 minutes or less selections, you can whip up delicious meals like pimento-style grilled cheese or smoky cumin pork tacos in, you guessed it, 15 minutes or less. I always enjoy cooking with EveryPlate because it's a great chance to just unplug from the work and throw on a podcast or YouTube videos and enjoy some time to myself while also nourishing my body the right way, not the expensive, unhealthy way. My food delivery app bill can really skyrocket during times of stress, but EveryPlate's meals are 58% less expensive than your average fast casual meal. You don't gotta tell me twice. That's why I've loved EveryPlate for years now. If you're ready to join me in this revolutionary idea of cooking for one's self, get started with EveryPlate for just $1.49 per meal by going to everyplate.com and entering code DiRamio149. Thank you EveryPlate for sponsoring this video and keeping the hyper-processed intergalactic blue foods out of my digestive system. We love it. Spoiler alert, this is not the only time Burger King is gonna end up on our list of foods with unappetizing colors. In fact, for a while in the early thousands, they kind of took that concept and really ran with it. This is from 2000.
It's Tuesday Use Month at Burger King. What should be red is green, like ketchup.
It is twisted and raw.
Our chicken tender dipping sauce, gooey apple green. And our frozen Minute Maid treats are green.
Well, that's nice.
But they're cherry.
Now that's just wrong.
I agree, cherry-flavored processed foods are naturally red. A bright, unnatural shade of red that was produced in a laboratory using chemicals that are considered by all of Europe to be poison. I hate how the kid eating the french fries already has a green tongue from shooting the previous takes. And when he slides the chicken nugget into his mouth on the table, I'm like, sweetheart, they wipe that down with a dirty rag. You gotta stop. But I mean, honestly, by the point that your kids are dipping their fried, mechanically separated chicken chunks into straight up corn syrup, the artificial color that they dye it with is probably the least of your worries. And I get it. Kids love eating things that most adults would find unappetizing. But what I really have a problem with in this commercial are all of the squishy sound effects. They literally make their own food sound like a human placenta hitting the hospital floor.
Choose your rules. Our chicken tender dipping sauce.
Okay, kids, get in the car. In hindsight, we should have just brought mommy straight home from her week at the mental health hospital. It's clear she's still a little tired. The green ketchup is triggering. Come on, wrap up your onion rings. We can eat in the car. You'll probably recognize the contents of that little ketchup packet that sent mommy into a breakdown because the next product we're looking at is one of the most, I would say, iconic or infamous or notorious examples of this food coloring craze for kids that I experienced in the early thousands.
New Heinz Easy Squirt Ketchup has a nozzle that makes it easy to draw. On food! Heinz Easy Squirt. It's fun for your food.
And also for your stool. If you love the color green so much, enjoy those early morning french fries, Bailey, because you're gonna be like a leprechaun until school starts in September. Easy Squeeze ketchup also came in a purple flavor, but that never came out in a commercial for some reason. Also, the red ketchup, I was like convinced as a child, I was like, they're dyeing the red ketchup red, even though ketchup's already red. But now I'm looking back and I'm like, how is ketchup already red? It's not a real substance. It's tomatoes squished up with sugar added. They had to dye it red or it would be like a clear, cloudy pink color, I would assume. Also, you probably heard the like kind of myth that Coca-Cola would be green or like a very sickly looking color without the caramel color that they add to give it its kind of distinctive brown taste, which is also used in a lot of meat products and sauces and gravies. But I mean, those were all meant to make adult food seem appetizing. And suddenly, with Easy Squeeze ketchup becoming a pretty big success for the time, I remember seeing them do a taste test of it on the morning show with Al Roker. Other companies soon followed in step by creating squeezable products for one, but also fun, colorful products that were kind of meant to defiantly gross out your parent.
She Parkey Science Center, we've done something no parent would ever do. Taken buttery tasting yellow Parkey and made it pink and blue. Tastes like butter. You bet it does. Top researchers are now putting blue on bread, pink on potatoes, watching colors change on corn, and testing the crucial parent gross-up factor. We've got to share this stuff.
Buttery tasting, new Parkey Fun Squeeze.
What have we created?
I'm not sure, child actors, but it clearly doesn't meet the legal requirement to be called butter or even margarine. So make sure not to refer to it as either one of those things, or the onset lawyers will have you replaced with one of those background science kids. He said, tastes like buttery flavored spreadable substance derived from the trace oils inside of corn husks and the discarded pulp from a Frito-Lay's factory. That's right, and also it's pink, like the discharge from a poorly cared for surgical wound, and blue, like the lips of someone you saw drown at a water park. So slather it on your string beans, I guess. I don't know. We'll see what happens. What I do know is that as an 11-year-old television viewer, this Parkey Fun Squeeze commercial did create my sudden awareness of legal compliance language used in advertising, which is known to support a healthy level of skepticism while visibly reducing signs of childhood innocence. Ding! The Heinz Easy Squeeze Ketchup placed us right in the new millennium in the year 2000, but the crazy coloring trend did extend till I would say 2003. I remember it was kind of feeling a little dated even to me as a child in 2002 when we were introduced to this new product from OreIda, frozen French fries. Won't you take me to Funky Fries?
Won't you give me some funky fries? I want to eat some funky fries.
OreIda's making French fries more fun with new funky fries.
They look so weird, they're funky fries. They freak my mouth, they're funky fries.
They come in a funky blue color, a funky round shape, and funky sweet flavors like Fries. Now you can get funkified with funky fries.
My favorite kind of commercial from the new millennium were always the ones with breakdancing kids wearing cargo pants, and this is no exception. Look how much energy they're getting from those up potatoes. We couldn't make them pink because people are suddenly being born allergic to red dye 40. Do up French fries. So as you saw there, it wasn't just the blue French fries, it was also these sweet ones. I remember the Craze ones, but there were also this cocoa flavored one, like chocolatey fries. I mean, we hit a point at this time where I was like, now we just aren't even tasting the food before we send it out. Like, as long as it had something weird about it, kids are gonna buy it once. But I mean, it didn't feel like any of these products were created to be a long-lasting pillar of the brand. It was more like chasing a trend, getting kids to make their parents buy it once, and then let it get freezer burn over the next 5 years. But I want to check back in with Burger King, who you might remember having a cherry-flavored beverage that was green. So this all ties back to that food psychology where people expect certain colors to be associated with certain flavors. Red with cherry. And in the case of Burger King, they, in kind of a smart way, decided that, oh, kids will love in the age of Slime Time Live for there to be some sort of subversion of that. So a red food, even though it's, you know, just a sugary artificial drink, being green instead. And they did it again to promote Ice Age.
Excuse me, is that cold?
Yeah,
How's it taste?
like blue cherry and vanilla.
Where'd you get it?
Burger King?
Thanks. I'll drive.
The new frozen float. You can drink the vanilla, then the blue cherry, or swirl it and whirl it.
Or you can wait 30 more seconds for it to melt into a nasty, undrinkable, cloudy liquid that you'll leave in the cup holder of your mom's car where it will form a fuzzy layer of mold overnight. Blah. Swirl it and whirl it, baby. To this day, I think that the cherry and vanilla flavor combination was too complex for any child to actually want under the age of, I don't know, 15. These Burger King frozen floats came out in 2002. I was 11, and I was in no way a picky eater when it came to sweets. But the idea of the vanilla and blue cherry together just didn't work for me. I would never have tried that. It might as well have been a toothpaste, orange juice, and floor sweepings smoothie. I was not gonna swirl it no matter how many talking penguins approached me in the park. And there were dozens, baby. Those penguins wanted to me. Ah! Oh my God. Why did I say that? I gotta stop asking why I even said things. You said it cause you're sick. So that was 2002. I don't remember any like huge gimmicky products based on color for the next 5 years or so. Then in 2009, we started to enter a new age where people wanted designer chic items. And Taco Bell was always trying to get in on the action by doing something that was both, oh, you want it, but also you're the lazy boyfriend in a movie with Seth Rogen.
Black boots. Black pants.
Black taco.
Black dress. Black dog.
Black taco.
Black eye. Black sheep.
Blackjack taco.
Taco.
With pepper jack sauce.
Congratulations, Taco Bell. You've created a product and advertisement so boring that I support communism now. Hold on, let me make sure I actually understand the definition of communism before I commit to saying that online. What is communism? Oof. So many words. Something something China, something something Cuba. Fun. I love travel. Blah blah blah. Karl Marx. That's a cool name. Sure, I'm a communist now. And it's all because of the blackjack taco from Taco Bell and the pepper jack sauce. In the same year, another early adopter of this black food trend would be Burger King once more. I remember around this time, there was a Burger King product in Japan, a fully black burger that was dyed with squid ink. Obviously, American fast food could never. So instead, we got this with the Halloween Whopper.
This Halloween, things will get dark. With A1 flavor baked into the bun, things will get deliciously dark at Burger King. Try the all-new Halloween Whopper, dripping with A1 sauce.
Okay, why would you sell me a burger that's intentionally dripping with liquid? Oh, I get it. It's just a preview for the real Halloween surprise, anal leakage. I eat a lot of A1 steak sauce. I love to just mix it with rice. So I'm familiar with the product, and to me, it's fully brown, not pitch black like it turned that bread. And people also reported that it turned their bowel movements green, which to me means it was an artificial dye also. So trick or treat, depending on how much you like jewel tones, I guess. Anyway, I'm glad I got to bring up discolored feces for a third time in this video about food, although it was only once that I got to talk about human placenta. So in that way, the ratio feels a little more unbalanced than I would like. But I guess we could count this as my second shout out to Afterbirth. So now it's 2 for 3 with human waste. Phew, I'm sure we all feel a lot more comfortable now with the conversation. Entering 2010 and beyond, I feel like that decade was full of these flash in the pan color trends for food, from the rainbow crepes, rainbow burger, rainbow pancakes, to mermaid frappuccinos, and the, again, back to black food, but this time with activated charcoal like the ice cream. But as we saw from the previous two products, brands were no longer necessarily creating these foods to appeal to kids, and I think that might have followed along with the advertising laws concerning a lot of things, from children's television like Nickelodeon to advertising on platforms like YouTube, and with nicotine products like vapes and cigarettes, all being sure to steer away from crazy colors that were clearly designed to draw in children. And now these things were made pretty so that in the age of Instagram, people would post them and you would get social clout. So these were products that weren't specifically made for kids, but instead kind of felt like limited edition products that made this false sense of urgency so that you could post about it or blog about it and grab a lot of headlines.
Pop Sugar reports that Kraft has turned their classic noodles pink for Valentine's. Classic Kraft with a taste of just a hint of candy flavor.
Yeah, I just want to say out loud, it doesn't look super appetizing, right? Like, okay, yeah. Well,
I'm in.
Really?
Yep.
Well, then you can have mine.
Okay.
Not Drew Barrymore lying to stay on the PR list for macaroni and cheese. You're an A-lister. Like, look at her face. She was so hesitant. You can also see that that product is nowhere near the pretty shade of pink that it was in the social media photos. Instead, it's a more horrific shade of red than the blood clot that killed Frida Kahlo. That's right. I read an individual art history factoid. Ooh, it can also be a human placenta color. Yes, I did it! I've achieved the golden ratio between and human placenta afterbirth on the floor of the hospital wing. This is me in Nirvana. Sorry, I needed a moment. I think I tried LSD at like a really crucial point of my brain's development. So this is just who I am now. That was 2021 that the Kraft pink candy macaroni and cheese came out, and it again really speaks to the age of internet kind of social media, how it wasn't put on store shelves because that would be a waste of money. Clearly no one's gonna buy a nasty sounding product. Instead, you entered online to win like one of 1,000 boxes of this, which obviously gets a lot of people on the Kraft email list, but you know they sent out those heart-shaped PR boxes to media everywhere, as well as influencers, YouTubers. You can see so many reviews of this product. It's all just so that you can get people making a crazy reaction. Most people like the taste of original macaroni and cheese, so they're not gonna stop buying it just because they see someone eat a gross seasonal version of it that was basically made as a joke. And you see this all the time now with food brands. Cheetos flavored perfume, you know, like every fast food brand does this weird stuff. Burger King made a cologne, Cheetos makeup, you know what I'm saying, like short run, small quantity, limited edition, just so that Pop Sugar writes an article about it. But since we're on the topic of thinking pink, you can't have that conversation without discussing the age of colorful foods in the TikTok era of internet culture. Obviously the most kind of well-known one being the pink sauce. It's the same psychology where people are kind of disturbed by the unnaturally vibrant shade of pink that Chef P was pouring on all of these foods and trying, yet it has this familiar creamy texture that you kind of want to try anyway. You can watch my video on the pink sauce saga to get the full background on that, but all you need to know for now is Chef P made this pink sauce, which she claimed was naturally flavored and colored by a dragon fruit, which is often used as a natural dye. However, then when she started selling it in bottles, it came expired because it had milk products in it and it had no preservatives and wasn't refrigerated. So eventually a condiment brand named Dave's Gourmet partnered with her to release a vegan, shelf-stable version of her product. And although Dave's Gourmet doesn't do actual commercials on television, this is TikTok mama, so here's the Instagram reel they released to let us know about the product.
Many of you asked, why did you partner with Chef P? We saw the pink sauce viral on TikTok along with everyone else, but we offered her support instead of criticism. Dave's Gourmet entered a partnership as the exclusive supplier of pink sauce, and you can now buy a vegan and gluten-free pink sauce that's made in an FDA and SQF certified facility.
Cool, just like all commercially available foods are supposed to be. I guess that is a main selling point in some cases. I love Dave of Dave's Gourmet being like, listen, we saw it all too, but we decided not to make fun of her like you all did. We're superior, and it was really hard to work with her, but we did it. Like, okay, sweetheart, you're not selling it in Walmart anymore, so I guess it didn't sell too well without the viral marketing of the mystery flavor that Chef P kind of built up behind it, which I think shows the way that, you know, our minds as consumers have evolved to be more savvy, where I'm not just impressed that something's pink. You have to tell me that it's pink based on a unique flavor that's naturally imparting that color, but ultimately it's not that impressive. So I'm interested to see, now that many brands throughout America have started pledging to remove artificial colors and flavors from their products, basically becoming like kind of globally harmonized with the EU, for instance, where they have for years now been banning artificial dyes and flavors. I remember doing a taste test video on candies that were sent to me by a subscriber in the UK many years ago and being so surprised by this bag of colorful candy because it was like paler looking. And it's like, oh, well, that's because it doesn't have synthetic dyes in it. It's using these compounds that are naturally occurring like turmeric or beta carotene, which gives margarine and butter, and cheeses like its yellow color, beets, which are a nice pink. There's also the compounds that turn berries and blueberries blue and purple, used a lot in water-based products like jellies and jams. It's all there for food manufacturers to use. We don't have to be eating these cheap chemical synthetic colors, which honestly, they don't know the long-term side effects if you're eating them, not just small amounts every so often, but you can't eat food without finding some sort of color additive, whether it's natural or artificial. So over time, over a lifetime, the more of these synthetic dyes that people eat, we don't know how they affect our health or our ability to resist disease. All of that stuff is called into question. And I think that we're probably gonna remain in this more natural kind of state. Just as we no longer adulterate food with chalk and arsenic, we are no longer accepting food that is using an artificial dye when we know there are plenty of commercially or industry available alternatives, right? Listen to me sounding like I'm actually teaching a class on fucking pink sauce. The point is, I'm very excited to see not only what sort of food coloring innovations come forward in the future, but also where the trend of processed foods goes. Will it always be that? Not me always spilling Red Bull. Sweetheart. Talk about weird coloring, right? It's the color of piss, but I think it's naturally flavored at this point. Yeah, natural and artificial flavors. Great. I don't know then, I guess. Why does it have baking soda in it? I drink a lot of this stuff. How much baking soda am I drinking? That's why I keep foaming at the mouth when I have my salt and vinegar chips. Anyway, let me know what you think of these millennial and beyond food trends. Did you eat these when they came out? Were you too young? Were you not born yet? Lord forbid. I would love to hear it in the comments below. Also, give this video a big thumbs up if you want to see even more deep dives into topics like this one. But most importantly, if you're new to my channel, I would love to have you click that subscribe button right over here. That way you never miss new videos from me. I upload 2 new ones every week, so turn on notifications and you'll always be the first to know when I'm putting some arsenic into your cheese, mama, because it's spoiled and I don't want you to know. You guys are all the greatest. Thank you so much for getting artificially and naturally flavored with me today. I will see you next time.